Hi everyone. Today what I want to show you is notifications in Android. And if you have an Android phone, you've seen plenty of these before, but it's a feature of the operating system that you can hook into and you can create your own notifications from your applications if you want. So I've got my emulator up here and running, and notifications, here's the notification bar. If you just drag down from the top, you'll see it, and you can see that I have a notification that a text message came in. By the way, in another video I'll show you how you can simulate text messages on your emulator. So that's in our next little video that I'm going to create. But anyways, so this will show me all the notifications. This is the notification bar. I can drag it up to make it disappear, I think, and you can see that it also puts icons here when notifications occur. So this is real easy to do. The code is a little bit convoluted, but it can be a powerful feature to add to your apps if you want them to create notifications that appear up here in the notification bar. So we're going to create a new project and we'll just dive right in. So let's just go over to Android Studio and create a new project. So we've done this many times before, and let's just call this Android notifications. And I think we can just hit the defaults the rest of the way through. Leave it at API level 17 is fine. Hit next here. We'll create a blank activity, so hit next. And we can just leave this as the defaults too. So, alright, it'll take a minute for Android Studio to build that project for the first time, so I think I might pause while that's going on, and I'll be back in just a minute. Oops. Okay, so I'm in my new project that I just created, and I'm looking at my layout file, which by default Android Studio makes a relative layout. And what I want to do here is I'm going to get rid of this text box, so I'm going to delete that. And then the way that I like to go about designing my user interface screens is go to the Design tab, and now I might get an error over here. It may not be able to render the phone emulator. So what I've been doing, yeah, I get this rendering problem. But if I set my API level down to 21, it'll work. Now I heard that there's a bug with this. Let's see what's going on here. Hopefully, hopefully I'll be able to see my emulator here. There we go. Okay, so that took a minute. So what I like to do when I add new controls to my layout is just drag them on there so I don't have to type everything from scratch. So I'm just going to grab a button right here, put it right on there like that, and then now put it in kind of a funny place because it's a relative layout, and we don't really care what it looks like, so we'll just leave it kind of funny looking. But now if I bounce back to my my code in the text view, I can see my button here. So what I want to do is I'm going to change the label to be create notification. And the other thing that I want to do here is set an on-click attribute. So we're going to respond to clicks on this button. So we already know how to do that. So we'll go Android on click, and then we'll call this create notification. That'll be the name of our method. Okay, and that should be all we need right there. All right. So now I'm going to go over to, I'm going to save this and go over to my main activity here. And the first thing I need to do, I just leave this stuff, this code that's in here, I just leave it as is. Now all we really need to do is create that function that we said we were going to call in the onClick. So I'm going to scroll down to the last method here, but I'm still inside my class, notice. Here's the closing curly brace for my activity class. So I'm going to add my new function right here, and we know that when we call functions from our layouts, they have to be public and they return void. And what did I call it? Or wait, no, I called it create notification. I think that's what I called it. I'm going to check here. And it has to take a view parameter, which is the view that got clicked on, in this case the button. And I have to do Alt-Enter here to import that. Enter. Okay, so here's the method that's going to run. And let me just make sure that I did actually call it create notification. So I'm going to bounce back over to, here it is, create notification. Alright, so how do we create a notification? Actually, before I go ahead and fill out the code for this function, what I want to do is set this up so that here's how it's going to work. This function that we're looking at right now will actually create the notification, and we'll see it appear in the notification bar when the button is pressed. But what we want to do is when the user acts on that notification, it's going to open up another activity inside this app. So what I want to do first is create a new activity. And I'll call this activity notification picked. So let's go ahead and right click on here and do new Java class. This is going to be an activity. Oh, well, I suppose I better do it the Android Studio way, which is new activity, blank activity. And we are going to call this one notification picked. So this will be the activity that the user sees when they actually act on our notification in the notification bar. And hopefully this will make sense once I run it for you. So everything should be okay right here. We have our new activity. It should be all ready to go. And I think what we'll just leave this as is and put some text in here. Hard code some text. Now, we know we're not supposed to do that, but since this is just a sample file, it's okay to do. Normally we'd have to put the text in the string resource file, but I'll just type in you clicked on the notification. So that's how this is going to work. When they act on the notification, then it will launch this activity, the notification picked activity. And the other thing I like to do is kind of organize my tags here. So my text view, I like to put all the attributes underneath the tag itself. So here's my text view, and then I kind of like to line up everything underneath, all the attributes underneath that. Okay, so we've got our new activity created. I'll go ahead and save that. And go back over to the main activity here, and let's get to work on creating a notification. So this is a little bit convoluted maybe, because the first thing that we're going to do is create the intent that happens when the user clicks on our notification and acts on it. Now that seems kind of weird, because we don't really know if that intent is ever going to happen, because what if the user just ignores the notification and never acts on it? So we would go ahead and create our intent like we did before, but then we have to wrap it in what's called a pending intent. So let's just get this started step by step here. So we're going to create a new intent. New intent. And we are going to specify the context, which we've done before. That's this activity. And the class to the activity to launch. So this is an explicit intent. It explicitly launches a specific activity, which is going to be our notification picked class. Okay, and I'll put a semicolon there, and then I have to hit Alt-Enter to import my intent. Okay, now we've seen this before. We know what this does. This will launch an activity and it will explicitly launch the notification picked activity. But, so this is the intent that will get launched if the user clicks on our notification. And we don't know if that's going to happen or not. So when we've got an action that we're not sure if it's going to happen or not, we have to wrap it in what's called a pending intent. Now, this is a little bit confusing, but you don't necessarily have to understand it. You just have to know how to write the code for it, and you can be off and running with notifications in your program. So what we do is create a pending intent class. And call this one tintent equals pending intent. So this is a static method of the pending intent class called get activity and we want to pass in context, so this activity, and then I think for this other stuff we can just enter zeros. These are just actually the third parameter is going to be the intent itself, so you see that, and then I think we can enter zeros for the second and fourth parameters. Okay, so what we're doing is we're wrapping this intent that we created in the previous line inside a pending intent. We don't know whether this intent is actually going to get launched or not. Depends on whether they act on our notification. All right. So let's see here. I'm going to pause just for a second. Oops. I'm realizing at this point it might be easier if I just showed you what we're going to do first, because the notification that we're going to create is probably one of the more complicated ones, meaning that it's got a lot of junk in it. So here's the app when it's finished, and I'll just show you what it's going to do. So we click on this create notification button, and we can see right up here that our notification appears, and I set the icon to use here. We could use lots of different icons. We could create our own icon if we want, but this is just one that comes with Android that I used. And then if I go ahead and drag that down and look at the notification bar, you'll see here's my notification. Now the thing that makes this one a little bit more complicated than most notifications is there's a lot of stuff going on here. First of all, there's a message here and an icon over here, and this is another one that I just pulled out of Android's stock of icons that we can use. But the thing that makes this a little bit more complicated is that there's 3 different buttons all included in this notification. So what we could do is we could create 3 different intents. Maybe each one of these buttons launches a different activity. So we could create 3 different intents and then attach those to each of these button clicks on the notification. What we're going to do is we're just going to say that regardless of which button you click here, it's going to open up the notification picked activity that we just created. So this is a little bit goofy because all 3 of these buttons do the same thing, but we could create separate intents for each one of them. And you can see here, so if I click on one of these buttons, it will open up our notification picked activity. So that's kind of how these notifications work. So let's go back and build this notification. So like I said, we have to create an intent. So this intent will get launched when they click on one of the buttons, and we're going to actually use the same intent for all 3 buttons, but we could easily create 3 separate activities and 3 separate intents, each with its own different activity specified for the second parameter here, and we can hook those up to the buttons of our notification. Alright, so let's build this thing. Let's put a message in here. So I'm going to create a string variable. And I'm just going to make it say click on one of the buttons to launch our notification activity. Okay, so that'll be the text that appears. And then what I'm going to do is create a notification. I'll notification as well. So I have to do Alt-Enter to import that. So equals new notification. What I want here is notification builder. This one right here. Now, the builder pattern, I don't think we've discussed it yet in this class, but this is kind of a strange little thing. You just chain a bunch of methods together to build something. So we can kind of configure this notification by chaining method calls onto this builder here. So this is a design pattern that you see quite a bit in Java. And it does look kind of funny, but it's basically one big line of code with a bunch of method calls separated by dots. So I'll kind of show you how this works. The first thing I need to do is pass the context into the builder method, and then if I move my cursor over to the right and I press the button, now I'm going to call another method on this class right here. So I'll call set content title, and that's going to be our notification. So we'll call it. Okay, now if I keep chaining these methods on here, it's going to get to be one big long continuous line, which is going to be really hard to read. So what we commonly do to chain these is after each method call, you can put it on a new line. So we're going to set the title of our notification here, and then the next thing we're going to do is set the text. And then we'll pass in the message that we created above here, MSG. Whoops. And then I'm going to do another method call on this builder, and it's going to be called set small icon. So this is going to be what the icon looks like that that appears in the status bar, the little tiny one that appears on top before we actually open the notification bar. And Android has a bunch of built-in icons that we can use, and I can get a handle on them by typing in Android R. It's a resource, and it's a drawable resource. And one we're going to use is just called IC notification overlay. So, and you can see here's a little preview of what that icon looks like over here on the left. So that's gonna be our little icon that appears up at the very top before we open the notification. And the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to set the content intent. And what that is this will be the intent that gets launched when I click on the notification, anywhere inside that notification. So I didn't really say that when I showed it to you before, but you could click on any one of those three buttons that are that we're going to put in our notification, or you could click anywhere inside the notification itself, and that's what will launch this intent here. Now, regardless of where they click, we're going to use the same intent. But like I said, in a real app, we may not want to do that. We might want to launch different activities using different intents. But I'll pass in the pending intent that we created here. So p intent. Then I'm going to continue configuring my notification here. And let's see, what do I need next? I need add an action. So to add an action, what that means is you're going to add a button. So when we add a button to our notification, we can give it an icon, and I'll do that right here. I'll do Android r.drawable. Let's do IC, and I'm just kind of making up these. I'm just using any old icon that I can find. This one's called menu underscore help. And you can see it appear faintly over here. It's a little question mark. And then the second parameter is the intent to launch when this button gets clicked, or rather the pending intent. So we're going to do our p intent here again. So that's going to be one button. What do I have wrong here? Oh, I'm missing a parameter. The second parameter to this add action method should be what the button says. So I'll just make it say do this. Or you know what? I'll just call it click 1. Click 1. Okay. And now we're going to add another button to our notification. And we'll use Android R drawable. So you can see I'm calling the same method 2 times here, the add action method 2 times. And for this one, my image will be IC. I'm going to use your menu info details, and we'll call this, we'll put the title on this button to be click 2. And again, the intent that we're going to launch when they click on this button is going to be the same one. So we pass in our P intent there, and then I'm going to add one more button to this notification. And by the way, you can only add 3. You can't add more than 3. You can add less than 3, but you can't add more than 3 to a notification. I guess there's just not enough room for it. So we'll do another add action, and we'll do Android, R drawable, and this time we'll do IC. Which one do we want to do here? Menu view. And we'll put the title to be click 3 here. And then again, we'll specify our P intent to be the intent that gets launched if they decide to click on that button. Now you can faintly see, I don't know if you can see this over here, but in the gutter right next to the line numbers, you can see the images that we're referring to. And these, like I said, these are all just built into Android. You can use them if you want, and you get a handle on them using android.r.drawable, and then you specify the actual image that you want to use. All right, so those are our 3 buttons for our notification. And I think that is it. So the last thing that I need to call after I've configured everything is the build method, just like that. Okay, and I think that should do it. Now there is one more thing. We've created a notification, but we haven't actually used it yet. So we have to actually use the notification manager. It's a service that comes with the Android operating system to actually create the notification for us. So I'm going to create a notification manager. Get a handle on the notification manager. So set it up like this. Equals, and then we have to do this cast here. Notification manager. And we'll do get system service. So the notification manager is a system service that you can access. And we need to specify the name of the service. And we can use this this constant that's built in for us. Okay, so that line of code right there should get us our notification manager. And then once we have our notification manager, there's a few flags that you can set. Now, this one, now this is a little bit funky, and I don't want to explain this code, but it's called bit stuffing, and you can basically store lots of values all in a small amount of memory. And like I said, I don't want to get into this too much, but we do need to set some configurations on our notification. So let's go back to our notification here, and then we want to set the flags here, and I'll explain this here in just a second. So we're going to do pipe equals, that looks kind of weird, but this is how you do bit stuffing. And then the flag that we're going to set on here is a static constant. So notification and flag auto cancel. So what this flag does here is this will, once they've seen the notification, then it will disappear and no longer be visible. But what you can do is set other flags that make your notification sticky. So you could make it keep reappearing until they actually do something about it or address it. So that's what we're doing with the flags here. So we're just going to set it to auto cancel so that as soon as they see it once, it'll just disappear regardless of whether they actually click on any of the buttons or the notification itself. All right, now we need to launch that notification, and to do that we use our notification manager. and we call the notify method. I spelled that right, notify, and then we pass in our notification. All right, and then the next thing to do here, whoops, is that cannot resolve method notify. Oh, I forgot a parameter here. I'm not sure what. So the first parameter, and what is this parameter here? So, nullable notification. If we wanted to give it a tag, we'll just pass in 0 for the first parameter, and we'll pass in our notification for the second parameter. So I fumbled my way through that one a little bit. All right, I think that's it. I think I can save it, and then I'm going to go ahead and launch it, and we'll see what happens here. And I'll pause this because we know it takes a while for the emulator to fire up. I just want to show you that I did have an error here. I'm looking down here, and it's saying an expected closing parentheses was needed. It'd be nice if I got a line number, but I don't see a line number there. But if I go over here, I can see that I forgot my comma that separates the parameters that I'm passing into this add action. So hopefully that'll fix things. Then I'm going to try this again. Waiting. Nothing's fast with Android Studio. And I don't want to keep you waiting too long, so I'll just pause this until my app comes up. Okay, so finally I see this screen to choose my emulator. I'll click OK, and now I'm going to pause it again because this will probably take a little while before the emulator actually comes up. Well, let's see here. Maybe I won't pause it. So here's my emulator. See the log filling up. Okay, so here's what we just created. Now this must be a notification from my other example. I'll just clear that one out of the way. I can just drag it off to the right and it will go away. But what I want to do is create another notification. So let's see how this works here. I spelled notifications wrong up here, I'm realizing. Whoops. So click the button, and there we go. Our notification appears up on top, and that's the icon that we used in our set small icon method call when we were building our notification. If I just drag this down, you can see here's the icon that we, where did this icon come from? Where did I specify that icon? Well, I'm not sure here, but I'm pretty sure that set small icon was the one that we saw at the very top. Here's our 3 buttons right here, and now remember I can click anywhere on the intent or on any one of these 3 buttons, and they're all going to do the same thing. It's going to launch our activity. So if I go ahead and click here comes our activity, and then notice that because of the flag that we set on our notification, it's no longer there anymore. It disappears, so it's not a sticky notification. And that should do it. So this is a powerful feature you can work into your apps. Notifying your users when something happens could come in really handy. So it's available for you to use. It's not too hard to set up. The code's a little bit goofy, but overall, it's a nice enhancement to your app, depending on what you want it to do. So, all right, signing off.